She called 911, said there was a child wandering along the highway. 3 minutes later, she disappeared. A Mercedes-Benz sat parked on the shoulder of I-459 in Alabama. The driver's door was wide open. Inside, a phone still connected to 911. Outside, no sign of anyone. Carlee Russell, 25 years old, a nursing student, had just reported an emergency, then vanished into the night. What really happened during those 49 hours? And why did everyone believe her at first? Carlee Nicole Russell wasn't a celebrity. She didn't have millions of followers, wasn't an influencer, and had never appeared in any ad campaigns. But to the people of Hoover, Alabama, Carlee was someone they could trust. She was born and raised in a quiet suburb, the youngest daughter in a middle-class family. Her father was a teacher, her mother an accountant. Carlee studied nursing at Alabama A&M University, dreaming of becoming a pediatric nurse. In Hoover's Black community, Carlee represented hope. She was a young woman who stayed out of trouble, showed up for her neighbors, handed out water during heat waves, and volunteered at a local children's shelter. Friends described her as sweet but strong, someone who really listened. She once helped a classmate through depression by calling every night for weeks just to make sure they felt less alone. She loved kids. Every summer, Carlee volunteered at her church, teaching basic first aid to young children. So when she called 911 to report a toddler walking alone on the highway, no one questioned her intentions. That was exactly the kind of thing Carlee would do. It was who she was. And that's why, when she went missing, it felt like the air had been sucked out of the community. News spread fast. Social media exploded. Residents of Hoover organized search parties. Local news sent reporters to the scene. Flyers with Carlee's face went up on shop windows, gas stations, church doors. One woman told a reporter, "If Carlee can disappear, any of us could." Carlee stopped being just one person. She became a symbol of fear and of solidarity. She was the youngest in her family and the only one in medicine. Her parents often spoke of her with pride, thoughtful, gentle, focused. Even as a child, Carlee wasn't like other kids. She didn't rebel. She was the model student. Not into parties or chaos, she spent her time reading, working part-time, learning to care for others. Within her family, she was loved for her calm presence. The sister who listened. The daughter who stayed up all night to care for her dad when he had the flu. The niece who always cooked Thanksgiving dinner. But behind that calm exterior, Carlee was human. And sometimes she struggled. According to a close friend, Carlee had been under emotional stress recently. She was in an on-again, off-again relationship. They'd broken up, gotten back together, but things weren't the same. At one point, she confided, "I don't feel like myself anymore." She didn't share much publicly online, but in her private stories, there were quiet hints. What if I just disappeared for a while? Or, sometimes disappearing is the only way to be missed. Just fleeting words. No one imagined they'd become a warning. Carlee wasn't the type to give up easily, but about a month before she vanished, something changed. At her job, a private clinic, she began showing up late. She seemed distracted, zoning out while reviewing patient files. Colleagues noticed her staring out the window, often stepping outside just to get some air. One day, her supervisor asked directly, "Carlee, are you okay?" She smiled softly and replied, "Just tired. I'll be fine." It seemed like ordinary stress. But when police later checked her phone search history, they found something strange. Just hours before her 911 call, Carlee had searched for, "Do you have to pay for an Amber Alert?" The movie Taken. How to disappear without a trace. How to steal money without getting caught. One-way bus ticket to Nashville. No one could explain it. The searches felt cold, irrational, and filled with anxiety. Nothing like the image of a kind-hearted woman stopping to help a lost child. At home, her mother said Carlee had been staying up late, sometimes crying quietly in her room. Whenever asked, she'd say, "I'm fine, Mom. Don't worry." Her ex-boyfriend shared that a few days before she vanished, Carlee had sent him a long, emotional message, torn between wanting love and feeling forgotten. Looking back, all those little things, those quiet warning signs, easy to miss, started forming a troubling picture. Maybe Carlee wasn't trying to escape. Maybe she just wanted to be found. At 9:34 p.m. on July 13th, 2023, Carlee called 911. Her voice trembled as she described seeing a small child, maybe 3 years old, walking alone along I-459 near Birmingham. She said the child was wearing a diaper. No adult in sight. Moments later, she called her boyfriend. The call lasted about 2 minutes. She was describing what she saw. Then suddenly, he heard her scream. Then silence. The line stayed open, but no one spoke again. First responders were dispatched immediately. When they arrived, they found Carlee's Mercedes-Benz pulled neatly off the shoulder. The driver's door was open. The engine was still warm. On the seat, her phone, wallet, Apple Watch, wig, and a takeout meal she had just picked up. But something was off. There was no child. No other drivers called 911 to report seeing anything. No traffic cameras captured a toddler on the highway. And most unsettling of all, no one saw Carlee leave her car. Police, media, and the community entered crisis mode. The story of the young woman who vanished while trying to help a child spread like wildfire. The hashtag #FindCarlee flooded social media. Volunteers searched through the night, combing the wooded areas near the highway. Carlee's family appeared on local news, pleading for help. Her photo, long black hair, gentle eyes, was suddenly everywhere, from national news outlets to gas station windows. There was no note, no warning signs, no evidence anyone had been following her. Only one haunting question remained. Where did she go, and why like this? That same night, Hoover police launched a full-scale search. They brought in K-9 units, drones, and teamed up with local rescue crews. By morning, the story was national. CNN, NBC, ABC all ran headlines like, "Young woman vanishes after trying to rescue child." The story went viral, partly because of its mystery, and partly because Carlee was a black woman. Mainstream media often overlooked missing black women, but this time, people paid attention. Find Carlee became a trending topic on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. Celebrities, activists, and hundreds of thousands of users shared her photo with one message: "We won't give up on her." In Hoover, a prayer vigil was held at a local church. People held hands, cried, sang, lit candles. No one knew exactly what had happened, but they all agreed. Carlee deserved to be found. Police expanded their investigation. They reviewed traffic cams, gas station footage, nearby businesses. But nowhere, not on a single tape, was there any sign of a wandering child. Carlee's family stayed firm. Her mother told reporters, "She's the light of our family. She wouldn't just leave. We know that." Her boyfriend, in a brief interview, broke down in tears recalling that last phone call. "I heard her scream, and then nothing. That was the worst moment of my life." The community was suspended between hope and fear. People who had never met Carlee were out searching the woods. One volunteer group even brought search dogs and launched their own hunt. As 24 hours passed with no leads, a creeping helplessness set in. Still, no one dared say what they were truly afraid of, that maybe Carlee wasn't coming back. Then, at exactly 10:44 p.m. on July 15th, nearly 49 hours later, Carlee Russell showed up at her parents' front door. She knocked. No warning. No one with her. No visible injuries. Her parents rushed out crying, embracing their daughter. Then they dialed 911. "Carlee's home. She's alive." The entire community exhaled. Social media lit up. A miracle just happened. Carlee was taken to the hospital. Doctors confirmed she had no major injuries, no signs of physical assault. But she seemed exhausted, shaken, and disoriented. The next day, Carlee gave police a story that stunned everyone. She said after stepping out to check on the child, a man with orange hair emerged from the trees and forced her into a truck. She claimed she was taken to a house, watched by both a man and a woman. They made her undress for photos, but did not harm her. She said she later escaped by running through the woods, eventually making her way back home. At first, her story was believed. Media outlets hailed her as a survivor. Some even called her a warrior who escaped abduction. But behind the scenes, police had doubts. There were no surveillance videos showing her walking home. No witnesses saw her in the neighborhood. And perhaps most puzzling, GPS data showed her phone never left the Hoover area during those 49 hours. One officer later said, "She says she was kidnapped for 2 days, but there's no evidence of that. No restraints, no injuries. Everything is just too clean." Which led to a new question. What really happened during those 2 days? And what was Carlee hiding? As soon as Carlee returned, investigators began questioning her and working to verify the story she had told. But the more they looked into it, the more doubts they had. Carlee claimed she had been abducted, held in a house, and then escaped. but she couldn't provide an address. No landmarks. No identifying details about the house or the people who supposedly held her. She said they took nude photos of her, but medical staff found no signs of restraint, assault, or abuse. She said she fled through the woods, but there were no scratches, no thorns, no dirt on her clothes. And perhaps most striking of all, her feet were completely clean. One officer remarked. She described running for miles through the woods, but her feet looked like she just walked out of a spa. She also couldn't explain how no one had seen her during those 2 days. No surveillance footage, no witnesses, no trace. Her phone, a key piece of evidence, had never left the Hoover area. GPS data showed it moving only within a few familiar neighborhoods. One chilling detail. Before she went missing, Carlee had searched for the movie Taken, a well-known film about abduction. That, along with other searches like Do Amber Alerts Cost Money?, How to Disappear Without Being Found, and How to Fake a Kidnapping, seemed too specific to be coincidence. Still, Carlee said nothing more. She refused to elaborate. Her lawyer released a statement saying she was in mental distress and needed protection. Police couldn't charge her, not yet. They didn't have proof that she fabricated the story, but they knew something didn't add up. As the investigation continued, detectives started reviewing Carlee's recent behavior and relationships, not just to gather clues, but to understand what could drive her to do something like this. Carlee had a boyfriend, a young fitness trainer. They'd been public about their relationship on social media, but in the weeks before she vanished, they had broken up. When she first went missing, he posted a heartfelt message on Instagram. "You are the most precious thing in my life. Please come home safe." But after she returned, the post was deleted. One of Carlee's friends revealed she had often worried her boyfriend didn't love her the same anymore. She even once wondered aloud, if I disappeared, would he even notice? Police also examined her computer search history. Not only had she been looking up missing persons cases and kidnapping plots, she had also searched things like how to fake an attack and how to create an emergency situation to get attention. On her phone, there was a saved draft of a message she never sent. It read, "I don't know who I am anymore. Is anyone going to stop and ask if I'm okay?" Another detail. A few weeks before the incident, she told a coworker, "Sometimes I wish I could just disappear for a while, just to see who would come looking." All these fragments, the searches, the questions, the whispers, painted a picture, not of a mastermind pulling off a hoax, but of a young woman struggling with emotion, with loneliness, with the desperate need to be seen. Police couldn't definitively say Carlee made it all up, but they were certain of one thing. She wasn't okay. And maybe this wasn't a scheme. Maybe it was a cry for help. On July 24th, more than 10 days after the incident, Carlee Russell's attorney released a statement. Carlee admitted the truth. There was no kidnapping. The entire story, the wandering toddler, the man with orange hair, the truck, the house where she was photographed, was all made up. The community was stunned. From a symbol of hope and survival, Carlee instantly became a symbol of betrayal. Outrage followed. People asked, why would she do this? And if there was no abductor, then who was the real suspect in this story? The answer pointed back to Carlee herself. She wasn't a victim, but she wasn't a villain either. She was someone who shook the nation, for reasons no one could have predicted. Her attorney said she was undergoing mental health treatment and declined to share more details. Meanwhile, the Hoover Police Department released a full incident report listing the evidence that disproved her story. Traffic camera footage, phone data, search history, and a minute-by-minute breakdown of the 49 hours she was missing. But what angered the public most wasn't just the lie, it was the cost. The Hoover police chief said, "We spent hundreds of hours investigating. We activated search teams. Over 20 officers left their shifts. Dozens of volunteers stayed up for 2 nights straight because they believed she was in danger. The search effort cost nearly $18,000. And perhaps most painfully, real missing persons, especially Black women, now faced even more skepticism because of this one fabricated case. From there, public opinion split. Some people condemned Carlee harshly. Others asked, what would drive someone like her, kind, quiet, responsible, to tell a lie this big? After Carlee confessed, she was charged with 2 misdemeanors, falsely reporting an incident to law enforcement and making a false statement to emergency services. Each charge carried a maximum sentence of 1 year in jail and a fine. However, the judge granted her probation instead. She received 12 months of supervised release, 100 hours of community service, and was ordered to repay the full cost of the search, nearly $18,000. That decision sparked debate. Some said she got off too easy. Others believed she needed healing, not prison. But no matter where people stood, one question lingered. What was really happening inside Carlee's mind? A psychology professor in Alabama told reporters, "We're quick to call it a hoax, but sometimes these actions are the peak of an undiagnosed emotional crisis." Carlee's case also touched a deeper nerve in American society. Black women rarely receive media coverage or public urgency when they go missing. Carlee's initial spotlight, followed by the intense backlash, exposed the complexity of visibility, expectation, and collective emotion. At a community forum held after the case, one Black woman said, "We want to be seen, but when one of us makes a mistake, it feels like the whole community pays the price." Since then, Carlee has stayed silent. No social media posts, no interviews, no public apology. It's as if she truly disappeared, this time for real. And what's left behind isn't just a lie, but a fracture between hope and truth, between the individual and the collective, between emotional crisis and public trust. As the wave of outrage slowly faded, another emotion began to take hold in the community: confusion. There were no more theories that made sense. No kidnapper, no child, no plot, no evidence she ever left Hoover. So the question lingered: where was Carlee for those 49 hours? What did she do? And who, if anyone, was she with? Even those who had stood by her felt a sense of emptiness. Not because they were deceived, but because the trust they placed in her now had nowhere to land. One advocate for missing Black women said, "We cried tears of joy when she came home, because we saw ourselves in her story. And then it was taken from us." In the media, talk shows began mocking the case. Carlee became the butt of jokes, a meme. She was compared to past hoaxes and called an accidental actress. But in all the punchlines, one thing was forgotten. Carlee is a real person. And whatever she went through, it left real wounds. No one knows for sure where she spent those 2 days. But sources suggest she checked into a hotel, isolated herself, shut down all contact. She didn't see anyone, didn't message anyone. She just disappeared. Maybe, in a life she felt she couldn't control, this was the only escape she could think of. When every answer stopped making sense, all that remained were questions no one wanted to face. Then, one final detail surfaced, and it only deepened the mystery. Carlee's phone, the one left in her car, had connected to a local hotel's Wi-Fi in the early hours of her second day missing. The hotel was just 6 minutes from where her car was found. But no one saw her. Hotel staff said no one matching her description checked in. The hallway cameras? Conveniently malfunctioning during that time. That single eerie detail sparked new theories. Was she really alone? Did someone help her hide? Did someone keep her there? Or did she just want to vanish into a quiet room as a broken way to heal? Behavioral psychologists began weighing in. Some called it a rare case of protest disappearance, when someone chooses to go missing as a way of rejecting a life they feel trapped in. A psychiatrist put it simply: Carlee wasn't a liar. She was someone who didn't know how to say, "I'm in pain." And if you see it that way, the entire story circles back to where it began. A young woman, kind, private, carrying more than she could bear. Until one day, she just couldn't anymore. And the unanswered question that haunts the story: if no one heard her while she was still here, can we really blame her for choosing to disappear? No one was hurt. No one was kidnapped. There was no murder. No criminal. But there was also no apology strong enough to heal what broke. No explanation deep enough to ease the sting. And most of all, there was no justice for the emotions of the millions who once held hope for someone they had never even met. Carlee Russell was once a symbol. Then, she became a punchline. And now, she's a story no one dares to tell in full. She hasn't spoken. Neither has her family. The community moved on. The media stopped saying her name. But for those who once prayed for her, who shared her photo with genuine hope, something still feels unfinished. A kind of invisible injustice. Not because Carlee lied, but because everyone who believed felt something real. This story ends, not with a crime, but with an emptiness too uncomfortable to touch. And maybe the scariest thing isn't disappearing. It's coming back and finding out no one believes in you anymore. So what do you think really happened during those 49 hours? Have you ever trusted someone completely, only to realize you didn't truly know them? Have you ever felt like Carlee, trapped between the things you can't say and a world with no one to hear them? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. Comment, "Me too," if you've ever felt invisible in the middle of a crowded world. Or share this video to remind others. Sometimes, the ones who need help most are the ones who stay silent. Thanks for watching till the end.